A shot of a sleek, black sedan gliding smoothly through city lights. The scene is calm, almost serene, before a sudden, jarring change in music and visuals. The city's evening hum was a familiar symphony to Evan Carroll. It was the sound production of deals made and victories won. In the back seat of his armored sedan, Evan was a man perfectly in sync with that rhythm. His charcoal suit was immaculate, his movements precise. He was a universe of order in a world of chaos, and his tablet, glowing with columns of numbers and legal jargon, was his sacred text. Numbers didn't betray you. Deadlines didn't ask for emotional support. They were simple, predictable, and far less complicated than people. He didn't register the car slowing until a sudden stillness broke his concentration. He looked up, his gaze cutting through the tinted windows. Up ahead, a strobe of red and blue lights pulsed with frantic, silent urgency. Marcus, his driver, a man who knew to respect the bubble of silence Evan created around himself, spoke in a low murmur. "Looks like there's been an accident, sir. Should I find an alternate route?" Evan's reply was unexpected, even to himself. A strange, sharp knife formed his gut, a visceral pull he couldn't explain. It wasn't curiosity. It was a raw, unsettling feeling, like a whisper he couldn't quite hear but desperately needed to. "No," he said, his voice quiet but firm. "Pull over. I want to see." Marcus hesitated, surprised by the break from routine, but he did as he was told. As soon as the car came to a stop, Evan stepped out into the cold evening air. The sudden rush of sound hit him like a physical blow. The piercing wail of sirens, the clipped shouts of first responders, the distant, thin cries of someone in pain. His eyes were drawn to the wreckage. A silver SUV lay twisted against a guardrail, its front end crushed like a soda can, glass shattered across the pavement. Firemen were working with crowbars and hydraulic cutters, their movements strained and focused. A paramedic shouted for a stretcher. Another stood by, shaking his head with a grim, final look. Evan took a few steps forward. An EMT, seeing his suit, moved to block him. "Sir, it's not safe here. Please stand back." But Evan wasn't listening. His gaze had found something else. A woman was being lifted onto a stretcher, her body unnaturally still. Her dark hair was matted with blood, her face obscured by an oxygen mask. He didn't know who she was. Not yet. Then he heard the paramedic speak. The words hit him like a physical blow. "We got 3 more still trapped in the back. Kids. We need backup fast, children." Evan's breath caught in his throat. "They're still inside?" he asked, the words barely a whisper. The paramedic nodded. "Back seat." The front end took the worst of it. "We've got a crew on the mother already. She's critical." Without a second thought, Evan stepped around the wreckage. "Let me in," he said. His voice was low, but filled with an unwavering authority he'd never used outside a boardroom. "I'm going in." The EMT opened his mouth to object, but something in Evan's eyes, a fierce, quiet resolve, made him pause. Seconds later, Evan was kneeling beside the mangled back door. He ducked inside, ignoring the sting of shattered glass on his palms, and peered into the darkness. 3 small bodies were huddled together, seat belts still strapped. Their eyes, wide and eerily calm, watched him. They weren't crying. They weren't screaming. They were just waiting. "Hey," Evan said, his voice dropping to a softness he hadn't used in years. "It's okay. I'm going to help you." He reached for the first girl. Her blonde curls were damp with blood and sweat. She stared at him, unblinking, as he carefully unbuckled her. He lifted her out, shielding her head from the twisted metal. A fireman took her gently from his arms. He went back in for the second one. She whimpered but didn't scream, her small hand grabbing his wrist as he lifted her. The third was so motionless he panicked for a heartbeat, until her head shifted and her eyes, an identical pale blue, met his. It was a jolt, a shock to his system. Triplets, the same light blonde hair, the same small frames, the same faces. He carried the last one out and set her gently onto a waiting gurney. And then he stood there, heart hammering, hands shaking, staring at them. They hadn't cried. They hadn't asked for their mother. They had only looked at him. 3 sets of identical blue eyes, searching his face as if they recognized something he didn't yet understand. A medic called out to him from the open door of the last ambulance. "Are you coming?" Evan hesitated for only a second. Then he nodded. "Yes," he said. "I'm going with them." He didn't know their names. He didn't know their story. But something in his chest had broken open, slow and strange and impossible to ignore. He couldn't walk away. Not now. Not from them. A shot of Evan, standing by the ambulance as it pulls away, the flashing lights receding into the dark. A close-up of his hand, still slightly trembling. The music shifts to a soft, somber, but hopeful tone. A softly lit hospital corridor bathed in sterile white lights. Sirens fade in the distance. Evan sits in a waiting room chair, his eyes red, his sharp suit smudged with dry blood. A cup of coffee in his hand has gone cold, untouched. Evan had never felt so helpless. Behind him, the bright city lights glowed. In front of him, only the long corridor of the hospital. The girls had been taken to the pediatric trauma unit. Their mother was in surgery. He silently observed the nurses moving like shadows. The beeping of machines, the slow drip of IVs, the roll of stretchers. It all felt like another planet. His mind kept flashing back. The wreckage, the icy silence of those little eyes staring at him. They hadn't cried, hadn't screamed, just looked at him, as if they knew him. Finally, a nurse approached, clipboard in hand, calm kindness in her eyes. "Mr. Carroll?" she asked gently. Evan nodded. "The girls are stable," she said. "No serious injuries. They're being kept overnight for observation." A heavy wave of relief washed over Evan, but the next question broke from his lips unsteady. "And the mother?" The nurse's hesitation said everything. "She has internal bleeding, head trauma. The doctors are doing everything they can, but it's critical." Evan lowered his head. "Can I see the girls?" "They're asleep now," she said softly. "But before they dozed off, they asked about you." Evan's head snapped up. "Me?" "They wanted to know if the man who saved them was still here," she said. "They said he felt familiar." Evan was silent. His throat tightened. "Do you know their names?" he finally asked. She glanced down at her clipboard. Eileen, Arya, and Alexa Hardy. Hardy. The name hit Evan like a punch to the chest. That name he had tried to forget for 6 long years. Mine Hardy, the woman who once meant the world to him. Her laughter had been the light in his stressful, calculated world. While he chased promotions and profits, she worked at a bakery and painted dreams. And then he'd left. No drama, no promises, just walked away. And now he realized he had been a father all along and never knew it. Clutching the desk for balance, eyes burning, he reached for his phone. "Tom," he said into the phone, "I need everything you can find on Mine Hardy. I need a DNA test done. Quietly, discreetly. Private labs only." Tom, ever professional, didn't ask a single question. "Understood, sir." Evan sank into the chair again. The perfectly crafted empire he'd built. Order, control, distance. It all cracked open in that moment. Had he really been a father? And if so, what kind of father had he failed to be? Scene fades early morning. Sunlight begins to spill through the hospital window. The corridor is calm. Evan is still in the same chair. Dark circles under his eyes. Hands wrapped around the same cold cup. But he hasn't left. A nurse came by again. One of them woke up, she said softly. She asked about her mom. Evan looked up. What did you tell her? I said her mommy is getting the best care, the nurse replied gently, and that the man who saved her is still right here, waiting. Evan stood, slowly, a new weight settling in his chest. Not heavy, but grounding, purposeful. Tell them, he said, voice steady. I'm not leaving. Not until they're okay. Not until they know who I am. The three girls lie sleeping under soft white blankets. Morning sun paints a warm light across the room. The camera pans Evan, standing silently at the doorway, eyes filled with something new. Responsibility, sorrow, and something like hope. The music shifts, gentle, emotional, a blend of remorse and tenderness. The morning sun filters softly through the hospital windows. Nurses move quietly through corridors. The pediatric wing is calm, almost peaceful. A distant heart monitor beeps steadily. Evan sits beside a hospital bed, fingers laced, eyes fixed on the sleeping girls. Evan hadn't slept. He didn't feel tired, only restless, like his entire life had been paused on a cliff's edge. Three little girls lay sleeping in front of him. Eileen, Arya, and Alexa. Hardy. The name echoed over and over in his mind like a bell tolling in a distant church. Mine Hardy, the one woman he had walked away from without a second glance, because ambition had called, and he had answered. He had never looked back. Until now. Now. The past wasn't knocking on his door. It had crashed into him, quite literally, and what shattered most was himself. Cut to footsteps echoing down the corridor. Evan turns. Tom, his assistant, approaches, a serious expression on his face and a manila envelope in his hand. Sir, Tom said quietly, the results are in. Evan stood slowly, his heart suddenly too loud in his chest. He took the envelope with trembling hands, but didn't open it. He didn't need to. The truth had already settled inside him like a sunrise. Still, he looked at Tom, needing to hear it. Tom nodded once. They're yours, sir. All three. There's no doubt. Evan's eyes closed for a long moment. A storm of emotions passed across his face. Shock, regret, awe, and something that looked dangerously close to love. And mine, he asked softly. She made it through the night, Tom said. Still sedated. Still critical. But stable. Cut to Evan standing by the girls' room again. Inside, they stirred gently under their blankets. A nurse smiles at him. They're waking up, she said. They've been asking for you. Evan's heart jumped. He stepped inside slowly. One of the girls, Alexa, blinked first. Her pale blue eyes locked onto his face. The other two stirred moments later, sitting up sleepily. For a few moments, they all just stared at him. No one spoke. Until finally, Arya broke the silence. Are you the man who saved us? Evan nodded. Yes, I was there. Eileen, more cautious, asked, why did you help us? He knelt beside their beds, his voice soft. Because you were in danger. And because I think I was supposed to. The girls looked at each other, then back at him. And then the question that shattered his last wall. Do you know her mommy? Asked Alexa. Evan swallowed hard. Yes, he said. Her name is Mine Hardy. I knew her a long time ago. Eileen whispered. She said our daddy lived far away, that he was busy but nice. Evan's voice cracked. I didn't know, he said, eyes glistening. I didn't know about you. If I had, I would have come. I would have never left. Arya, with the clarity only a child can carry, leaned forward. So are you our dad? He didn't flinch, didn't run, didn't hide behind business logic. He met her eyes and said one word. Yes. Silence. The girls absorb the answer. Then Alexa's lip trembles. Eileen turns her face into her pillow. Arya looks down and whispers, Is Mommy going to die? Evan's chest ached. He gently took their hands. All three of them, small, fragile fingers wrapped around his like lifelines. No, he said, steady and sure, even though he wasn't. She's fighting, and I'll be right here with you, every day. The girls didn't cry loudly. Their tears were quiet, slow, deep, and in that quiet, Evan Carroll, the man of power and perfection, was undone. That night, a private pediatric room. Evan is on the floor with them, helping them draw on sketch pads. He tells them stories. He listens. He shows up. When they fall asleep, their hands still holding on to his shirt sleeve. He doesn't move. He just sits there, quietly watching, quietly belonging. Asterisk. Early morning in the ICU. The room is quiet, sterile, filled with the soft hum of machines. Sunlight peeks through the blinds, casting warm stripes across the floor. Evan stands outside the ICU door, his hands folded, heart racing. Hours had passed. Minutes had stretched into an eternity. He had watched over the triplets all night, had seen their quiet trust in him, their small hands holding his sleeve. And yet, his mind kept returning to one person, Mine Hardy, the woman who had once been the sun to his shadow, the one he had walked away from, the one who carried the secret he never knew, the daughters he never knew he had. Cut to, a nurse enters quietly, checking the monitors. She's stable, she says softly. The bleeding has stopped, and her vitals are improving. We're reducing the sedation now. Evan nods slowly, barely breathing. Can I be there when she wakes? He asks. The nurse gives a small, understanding smile. Yes, Mr. Carroll, you can be with her. Scene. The sedation is slowly lifted. Mine's eyelids flutter. Her breathing is slow but steady. She groans softly, trying to speak. Mine! Evan whispers, stepping closer. His voice is barely audible, trembling despite his best effort to remain calm. Her eyes focus, a flicker of recognition dawning. Evan, she whispers. Yes, he says, voice choked. It's me. I'm here. Tears gather in her eyes, confusion and relief battling within her. She tries to sit up, and he gently supports her, steadying her on the bed. And the girls, she manages, voice fragile. Evan gestures to the door, and the triplets appear, shy, small fingers entwined in each other's hands. Their blue eyes widen as they see their mother awake. They're here, he says softly. They're safe, and they're waiting for you. Mine's lips tremble. She reaches out, touching their hair, brushing their faces, unable to speak at first. A tear falls, and then another. Montage. The triplets climb onto the bed slowly, surrounding their mother. Evan watches from beside the bed, a silent protector. Mine holds each daughter in turn, whispering softly, brushing their hair, pressing their tiny faces to her chest. I can't believe you're here, she murmurs to Evan, eyes glistening. I never thought you would be. I never left, he replies, voice firm. Not really. I was always meant to be here. Mine looks at him, searching, vulnerable. All this time, our girls you never knew? I didn't, he says, guilt and sorrow in his voice. But now I do, and I'm here. I won't leave again. Scene. Later, in the hospital room. The triplets are asleep, nestled safely against their mother. Evan sits in a chair nearby, watching over them, his mind spinning. For the first time in years, Evan Carroll doesn't think about profits, contracts, or deals. He thinks about life, family, love, and the unexpected paths it can take. Narration, VO. Sometimes, life changes direction in ways you never expect. It pushes you off the road you knew, into something far bigger, far more important. And in that change, you find the life you were always meant to live. Closing shot. Evan glances at the sleeping family, gently brushing a strand of hair from Mine's face. The camera pans out, the warm morning light filling the room. Soft, hopeful music swells. Hospital pediatric wing. The morning sun pours gently through the windows. The room is quiet except for the soft breathing of the girls and the rhythmic beep of machines. Evan sits in a chair beside Mine, holding her hand. The night had been long, filled with tears, whispered reassurances, and the silent prayers of a father who had only just discovered his daughters. Mine finally opened her eyes fully, the fog of sedation gone. She looked at Evan, searching his face for answers, for reassurance, for the man she had once loved. I can't believe you're here, she whispered. I told you, Evan replied softly. I'm not going anywhere. Her hand squeezed his, fragile but firm. For the first time in years, they both let the past dissolve into the present. Scene. The triplets wake slowly, rubbing their eyes. Their tiny voices call for Mommy in unison. Mine smiles through her tears, reaching for them. Come here, my loves, she whispers, opening her arms. The girls clamber into her embrace, giggling softly, pressing their faces to her chest. Evan watches, heart swelling, feeling a warmth he had never known. For years he had measured life in numbers and contracts, but here, in this quiet hospital room, he finally understood the meaning of something immeasurable: family. Montage, later in the day. The family shares small moments of laughter. Evan helps the girls draw in coloring books. Mine reads softly to them. Evan brushes Alexa's hair, straightens Arya's uniform, and tickles Eileen's cheek. They are a family learning each other, tentative yet full of trust. Evan feels a strange serenity. The world outside, the boardrooms, the meetings, the endless numbers, seems distant, almost irrelevant. Here, beside these three little girls and the woman he loves, he has found a life worth every sacrifice. Scene, evening. Mine sits on the hospital bed. The triplets asleep beside her. Evan stands by the window, looking out at the city lights. He whispers to himself, almost as a vow, I will never leave again. I will be their father, their protector, their anchor, and together we will face whatever comes. The soft glow of the city mirrors the warmth growing in his chest, a light that had been absent for too long. Narration, VO. Sometimes life gives you a second chance, a chance to undo mistakes, to find love, and to embrace the family you never knew you had. And when that chance comes, you don't hesitate. You step forward, heart open, ready for a new direction. Closing shot. Evan returns to the bed, sitting beside mine, gently placing a hand over hers. The camera lingers on the sleeping triplets, peaceful and safe. Music swells with hope and warmth. Early evening. The family's new home is quiet, a soft glow from the lamps illuminating a cozy living room. Evan Carroll carefully carries little Alexa in his arms, while mine holds Eileen and Arya's hands. The triplets giggle softly, still clinging to their mother's warmth. After days in the hospital, the world outside now felt calm. The city's distant hum, once a constant reminder of business and deadlines, had been replaced by the quiet rhythm of a home that was finally theirs. Evan set Alexa gently onto the soft carpet, careful not to wake her. He watched as Eileen and Arya explored their new surroundings, tiny hands touching everything with awe and curiosity. It's really ours, Arya whispered, her voice tinged with disbelief. Yes, Evan replied, kneeling to meet her gaze. Every corner of it. And now, it's a place where we'll all be together. Scene, evening routine. The girls are in pajamas, brushing teeth and giggling. Evan and mine exchange a glance, a mixture of exhaustion and happiness. Mine smiles softly. I can't believe this is real, she says. After everything, we're finally home. Evan nods, brushing a stray strand of hair from her face. It's just the beginning. We'll figure out together. He helps tuck the triplets into their shared bed, smoothing blankets and planting gentle kisses on their foreheads. Their tiny arms wrap around each other as they settle in, safe and loved. Montage. Evan and mine sit in the living room, sipping tea quietly. The soft glow of the evening fills the room. They talk softly about the past, the hospital, and the future. I was so afraid of losing them, mine admits, voice barely above a whisper. You didn't lose them, Evan says, reaching for her hand. Not anymore. And we won't. I promise. For the first time, neither of them speaks of the past regrets or mistakes. The focus is on the present, this home, this family, and the little hearts they now protect. Scene, night. The house is silent, except for the soft breathing of the sleeping triplets. Evan and mine sit by the window, gazing at the city lights. Evan speaks quietly, almost to himself. Life can change in an instant. A single moment can turn everything upside down. But sometimes that change is exactly what you need to find your way. Mine leans her head on his shoulder, exhausted but content. We're really a family now, she whispers. Yes, Evan replies, wrapping his arm around her. And we'll never let this go. Closing shot. The camera pans over the sleeping triplets. Then to Evan and mine by the window. Soft, hopeful music rises. The city outside twinkles, a reminder of the world, but inside, a new life has begun. Morning sunlight streams into a cozy, warmly furnished living room. Toys are scattered across the floor, and the aroma of breakfast fills the air. Evan Carroll stands at the kitchen counter, preparing pancakes, while Mine Hardy sets the table. The triplets, still in their pajamas, sit on the couch, their blue eyes wide with excitement. It was their first full day at home. A day without hospital walls, monitors, or sterile lights. The air felt different here, warm, safe, and full of possibility. But for Evan and mine, the challenge was clear. How you take 3 little girls, each with a story of fear and uncertainty, and help them believe in a home, in a family, in stability, when life had been anything but predictable. Evan flipped a pancake carefully, setting it on a plate. Who wants strawberries on theirs? He asked. Me. Eileen and Arya shouted in unison, their voices overlapping in perfect harmony. Alexa, sitting quietly at the corner of the table, reached out for a plate and smiled faintly, still adjusting to the new environment. Evan noticed her hesitation and leaned down gently. It's okay, Alexa. You're safe. You're home now. The girl nodded slowly, gripping the edge of her chair, her eyes reflecting trust she had not felt in months. Evan realized then that trust was not something earned in a day. It was something built quietly moment by moment, and he was ready to start that work. Scene, breakfast continues. Mine pours juice into small cups, while Evan carefully arranges fruit slices. The triplets chatter softly among themselves, asking questions about the house, the backyard, the city beyond their windows. How big is the park? Arya asked. Bigger than you think, Evan said, smiling. And we can go together whenever you want. Really? All of us? Eileen asked, her voice cautious but hopeful. Every single one of you, Evan replied firmly. All of us together. Mine watched the exchange, her heart swelling. She had feared the day when the girls would be too timid, too uncertain to open themselves fully to a life that included him. But watching Evan, she saw patience, gentleness, and an instinctive understanding of children that she had only ever dreamed someone could have. Montage. Morning transitions into afternoon. The triplets explore the house, each discovering small wonders. A window that lets in sunlight just so, a bookshelf filled with colorful stories, a soft couch perfect for cuddling. Evan follows closely, guiding but not controlling, letting them explore while remaining a steady, protective presence. Mine watches, helping Alexa adjust, listening as the girls talk about their experiences and dreams. Laughter slowly fills the house. By mid-afternoon, the family gathers in the backyard. Evan kneels beside a small sandbox, helping the girls build a castle. This is our castle, he explains, and inside it we protect each other no matter what. Eileen giggles, adding a tiny flag to the top of their sand fortress. Can we live here forever? She asks. Yes, Evan says softly. As long as we take care of each other, we always will. Scene, evening. The family sits together in the living room. The triplets, now tired from the day's adventures, curl up on the couch with blankets. Evan sits on the floor, leaning against Mine's legs, watching them closely. I never thought I'd be a father like this, Evan admits quietly. Not just the one, but 3 little girls, daughters I didn't even know existed. Mine's hand rests on his shoulder. Life doesn't always give us choices, Evan, but it does give us second chances. And now we have one. The room is quiet except for soft breathing and the distant hum of the city beyond their windows. But in that silence, Evan feels something he has never felt in boardrooms or during business triumphs. Complete presence, unshakable love, and a sense of purpose that transcends ambition. Closing scene, night falls. The triplets are tucked into their shared bed, holding each other close. Evan and Mine sit nearby, a soft lamp illuminating the room. Evan whispers to Mine, "We'll learn together, step by step. Every day, a little closer. Every night, a little safer." Mine nods, her eyes glistening. "Yes, together." The camera pans over the sleeping triplets, then to Evan and Mine holding hands. A family beginning to heal, a home beginning to feel like home. Outside, the city hums on, oblivious, while inside, a new rhythm of life begins, one defined not by contract or numbers, but by love, trust, and hope. Early morning. Sunlight streams through sheer curtains, bathing the living room in a warm glow. The triplets are slowly waking up, tangled in their blankets. Evan is already awake, brewing coffee and watching them with a quiet, almost reverent gaze. The house feels alive in a new way, not with alarms, deadlines, or the constant pressure of a business empire, but with soft, small sounds. Tiny footsteps on wooden floors, the rustle of blankets, whispered giggles. Evan feels a sense of wonder that no boardroom meeting or financial victory could ever give him. He watches Alexa stretch her small arms toward the ceiling, her pale blue eyes meeting his. "Morning," he whispers softly. She blinks, then smiles faintly, a smile that carries both caution and trust. "Morning, sweetheart," he replies, leaning down to brush her hair from her forehead. It's a simple gesture, yet in it he feels the enormity of his new role. He is a father, a protector, a guide, a presence in lives that have been fragile and uncertain. Scene: breakfast in the kitchen. The girls chatter excitedly, Eileen asking questions about the pancakes, Arya requesting strawberries, and Alexa quietly observing before shyly joining in. Mine moves around them, pouring juice, setting plates, and smiling at the harmony slowly forming. "You know," Evan says as he flips another pancake, "every family has its own rhythm. We'll find ours together." Eileen looks up, curious. "Even when things are scary?" "Especially then," Evan answers firmly. "Even when it's scary. That's when we stick together the most." The girls nod, small faces serious for a moment, understanding a lesson they hadn't had time to learn before. Evan watches them, feeling a swell of responsibility and pride. He knows the road ahead won't always be smooth, but today is a start, a foundation. Scene: mid-morning. The family moves to the backyard. Evan sets up a small sandbox and some outdoor toys. The girls explore, their laughter filling the air. Mine watches them, a soft smile on her face. Evan kneels beside the sandbox. "This is our space," he explains. "A place where we can build anything, castles, dreams, even our own rules. But the most important thing, we protect each other here." Arya giggles, adding a tiny stick as a flag to a sandcastle. "Can we live here forever?" "Yes," Evan says, voice gentle but steady. "Forever, as long as we stay together." Mine comes to stand beside him, resting a hand on his shoulder. "Look at them," she whispers. "They're learning to trust again, slowly, step by step." Evan nods, feeling a quiet resolve. "And we'll be there every step, no matter what." Scene: afternoon. Evan teaches the girls small routines, washing hands before lunch, organizing their toys, even little chores that give them confidence. They stumble at first, but Evan is patient, guiding without scolding. Mine joins in, showing them warmth, affection, and encouragement. By late afternoon, the family sits together on the couch. Evan watches as the girls draw pictures, each image filled with castles, sunshine, and smiling faces. Their small world is beginning to expand, piece by piece, guided by patience, love, and care. "Look at this one," Eileen says, holding up a drawing of 3 little girls standing on top of the castle, holding hands with a tall man. Evan feels a lump in his throat. He doesn't speak at first. The picture says everything he has been trying to communicate: protection, love, and belonging. "You drew us together," he whispers softly. "All of us, safe and happy." "Yes," Arya says, "we're together now. Always." "Always," Evan replies, his voice firm, unwavering. "I promise." Scene: evening. The family prepares for bedtime. The girls are in pajamas, blankets wrapped around them, and Evan and mine sit nearby, reading stories, telling tales of faraway lands, thunderstorms, and adventures. The girls listen intently, eyes wide, some giggling, some leaning close for comfort. Evan pauses in his storytelling, looking at the three little faces bathed in lamplight. He realizes that these moments, these quiet, tender interactions, are more valuable than any business deal he has ever closed. Here, in the softness of bedtime stories and shared laughter, he finds meaning, purpose, and a love that cannot be measured in numbers. Mine leans her head on his shoulder. "We're learning, aren't we?" she whispers. "Yes," Evan replies. "Together, every day, step by step, and we'll get there." Closing shot. The triplets asleep, holding each other close. Evan and mine sit nearby, hands intertwined, watching over them. The house is quiet except for soft breathing. Music swells gently, emotional and warm, signaling the first day of a new life, a life built on love, trust, and family. Morning sunlight spills into the kitchen. The aroma of pancakes and fresh orange juice fills the air. Evan and mine are busy preparing breakfast, while the triplets scramble to help, each trying to do more than the others. The house has begun to settle into a rhythm, but it is a new rhythm, messy, unpredictable, and wonderfully alive. Evan watches as Eileen spills a little juice. Arya knocks over a bowl of berries, and Alexa drops a pancake. He exhales deeply, a mixture of amusement and exasperation passing over his face. Mine laughs softly. "It's okay. Let's clean it together." Evan bends down, guiding Alexa to pick up the pancake pieces. "See? Even accidents can be part of fun." The girls giggle, the sound pure and bright, filling the kitchen with warmth. Evan realizes that chaos, small as it may seem, is a sign of life, of comfort, of trust, of belonging. Scene. Breakfast continues. The triplets chatter about school, friends, and their favorite colors. Evan listens more than he speaks, absorbing their personalities, quirks, and humor. "So, Dad," Arya says suddenly, pointing at a syrup bottle, "do you like chocolate syrup or strawberry?" Evan smiles, caught off guard. "I think I like strawberry today." "Why do you ask?" "Because it's the best," she declares firmly. Eileen and Alexa nod in agreement, and Evan laughs, feeling the absurd joy of being part of their decisions, even the small ones. For the first time in years, Evan is not directing, calculating, or managing. He is simply present, part of something larger, something warmer, something that cannot be quantified by contracts or spreadsheets. Scene mid-morning, the family moves to the living room for a game of hide-and-seek. Evan counts. 1, 2, 3, while the girls scatter, squealing and laughing as they hide. He finds Eileen behind a curtain, Arya under a table, and Alexa peeking from behind a couch cushion. Each discovery is met with giggles, gentle protests, and playful banter. For Evan, every laugh is a reward greater than any business deal he has ever completed. Mine watches them, a tender smile on her lips. "You're learning patience," she teases Evan softly, one laugh at a time. "I think," Evan says, catching his breath after chasing Arya around the couch, "I might actually enjoy this part of life." Scene, afternoon. The family decides to bake cookies. Flour flies, chocolate chips scatter, and small hands press dough into shapes. Evan carefully guides the girls, helping them measure and mix. "Don't eat too much," Evan warns playfully. Seeing Arya sneak a chocolate chip, Eileen giggles, placing a heart-shaped cookie on the tray. "We're making love cookies." "Love cookies?" Evan asks, raising an eyebrow. "Yes, because they're full of love for us," she says proudly. Evan feels a lump in his throat. He never imagined that 3 little girls could teach him lessons in life he had ignored for years. Love is patient. Love is messy. Love is imperfect. And yet, it fills every corner of your heart. Scene. Evening. The triplets are exhausted from a full day of games, baking, and exploration. Evan sits with them on the couch, telling stories from his childhood. Tales of thunderstorms, burnt toast, and embarrassing school moments. The girls listen, eyes wide, occasionally giggling, sometimes clinging to him. "You're funny, Dad," Alexa whispers. "I try," Evan replies, ruffling her hair. But being funny isn't as important as being here for you. Eileen and Arya nod in agreement. We like that part best, Eileen says softly. Mine leans against Evan, a quiet acknowledgement passing between them. They are learning together. Learning that family is built not only through grand gestures, but through patience, presence, and shared laughter. Closing scene, night. The triplets are tucked into bed, blankets pulled tight, and a small nightlight casting a warm glow across the room. Evan sits nearby, notebook in hand, planning the next day. Mine watches him, admiring his dedication and gentle presence. Evan whispers, almost to himself, "We're building something here, step by step, every day, a little stronger, a little closer." Mine nods, and one day they'll know that no matter what, we are their family. Always. The camera pans over the sleeping triplets, Evan and Mine watching silently. Outside, the city hums on, unaware. Inside, a family is growing, learning, and discovering the power of love, laughter, and resilience. Early morning light filters through the curtains. The triplets are still asleep, tangled in blankets. Evan sits quietly on the edge of the bed, reflecting on the last few weeks. The events of the accident and the hospital stay replay in his mind, but now there is a different feeling, a mixture of responsibility, warmth, and a faint undercurrent of fear. Not fear of danger, but fear of failing them, of being the father they need him to be. Mine enters the room quietly, holding a tray of warm tea and soft pastries. She watches Evan's expression, recognizing the silent worry that mirrors her own. "You're overthinking again," she says softly, setting the tray down. "They need you, but they also need you to breathe." Evan smiles faintly. "I know. I want to be perfect for them." Mine places a hand on his shoulder. "Perfect doesn't exist. You just have to be present. That's all they need." Scene, breakfast. The triplets wake and run into the kitchen. Eileen, Arya, and Alexa chatter about dreams, school, and their favorite games. Evan tries to respond, but the flood of questions overwhelms him. "Dad, can we go outside today?" Eileen asks, "Can we make cookies again?" Arya adds, eyes shining. Alexa tugs Evan's sleeve. "I want pancakes, too." Evan laughs, taking a deep breath. "Yes, yes, and yes, but only if we help clean up after ourselves this time." The girls cheer, and Evan realizes that their little demands, once intimidating, are now the most joyful part of his day. Scene, afternoon. The family steps outside into the backyard. The sun is warm, birds chirping. Evan notices how small gestures, holding hands, encouraging words, shared laughter, begin to knit a fragile, unspoken bond. "Let's race." Arya shouts, dashing across the lawn. Evan and the girls run, laughing, falling, and getting back up. Eileen trips, and Evan catches her mid-fall, feeling her small weight against his chest. "I've got you," he whispers. The girls begin to confide in him. Fears, secrets, small anxieties. Eileen speaks of nightmares, Arya being lonely at school, Alexa missing her mother's hugs. Evan listens, offering comfort, steadying their small hands in his. "I promise, you'll never be alone," Evan says quietly, as if reaffirming it to himself as much as to them. Scene, evening. Evan sits with Mine, watching the girls draw quietly at the kitchen table. "They're opening up," Mine says, smiling softly. "They trust you. They see you as part of their world." Evan nods, feeling the weight of responsibility and the glow of connection. It's scary sometimes, but I can't imagine walking away anymore. Mine leans closer. "And you won't. Not after everything." Scene, night. The girls are tucked into bed. Evan reads them a story, his voice gentle and calm. Each story ends with a lesson, courage, kindness, and facing fears together. Eileen whispers, "Thank you for today, Dad." Arya adds, "I wasn't scared with you." Alexa murmurs, "I love you." Evan feels a lump in his throat. He realizes that courage is not the absence of fear, but the act of staying, helping, and loving despite it. Closing scene. Evan sits by the window, looking at the night sky. Mine joins him silently. Together, they watch over the sleeping triplets. Evan whispers, We're doing it, one day at a time. Mine squeezes his hand. Together, music swells softly, hopeful yet tender. The camera pans over the house, bathed in the glow of night lamps, showing a family slowly becoming whole. Early morning light streams through the hospital room. The triplets are quietly drawing, while Evan sits nearby, reviewing documents on his tablet. A calm sense of routine has settled over them, but the air carries an unspoken tension. Eileen suddenly looks up, her small brow furrowed. "Dad, why you look so serious all the time?" Evan lowers his tablet, smiling gently. "I'm just thinking about work, sweetie. Nothing to worry about." Arya leans over, curiosity sparkling in her eyes. "But Mommy said you used to be different." The words hang in the air. Evan freezes for a moment, feeling a pang of unease. Mine had been cautious about sharing the past too quickly, knowing how it could overwhelm the girls. Yet, here it is, surfacing in innocent questions. Scene, afternoon. The family is in the living area. A box of old photographs and letters has accidentally been left within the triplets' reach. They start flipping through, curiosity overtaking caution. Eileen holds up a photograph of a younger Evan with a woman. Mine. Her eyes widen. "Is this Mommy?" Evan's heart skips. He takes the photo gently from her. "Yes, that's your mother a long time ago." Alexa, the smallest, whispers, "You knew her before we were born?" "Yes," Evan admits softly. "I did, a very long time ago." The girls exchange glances, sensing the gravity in his tone. Questions swirl, some unspoken but heavy in the air. Who is he really? Why wasn't he around? Scene. Evan sits with the girls, carefully navigating conversation. "Before all of this," he begins, "your mother and I, we were young. I made mistakes, choices that hurt people, including her. And I wasn't ready to have a family. But now I'm here, and I won't leave." Eileen looks him in the eyes. "Were you scared of us?" Evan shakes his head, a lump in his throat. "No, I was scared of myself, of not being the person I needed to be. But you've already taught me how to try." Arya reaches out, holding his hand tightly. "We won't leave you, Dad. We'll help you be brave." Alexa curls up beside him. "We love you." The words pierce through Evan's doubts, stitching together a fragile thread of trust. Scene. Evening. Evan and Mine sit on the porch while the triplets sleep. The past lingers between them, unspoken but felt. They're growing curious. Mine says softly, "Soon they'll want to know everything, the truth, the mistakes, the life before you came back." Evan nods slowly. "I know, and I'm ready. They need honesty now more than anything." Mine reaches for his hand. "They already trust you. That's the hardest part. The rest we face together." Evan watches the stars emerge in the night sky, a mirror of hope and uncertainty. The past has a way of catching up, but he realizes that facing it openly, with courage, love, and transparency, is the only path forward. Closing scene. Camera pans over the sleeping triplets, their faces serene. Evan and Mine stand quietly, guardians of both past and present, ready to guide this newfound family toward a future filled with trust and love. Early morning sunlight gently filtered through the hospital apartment windows. The triplets sat quietly at the small table, coloring in their sketchbooks, while Evan sat nearby, reviewing documents on his tablet. A calm sense of routine had settled over the family, but the air still carried an unspoken tension. Suddenly, Eileen looked up, her small brow furrowed. "Dad, why you always look so serious?" Evan lowered his tablet, offering a gentle smile. "I'm just thinking about work, sweetheart. Nothing to worry about." Arya leaned forward, curiosity bright in her eyes. "But Mommy said you used to be different." The words hung in the air. Evan froze for a moment, a pang of unease stirring in his chest. Mine had always been cautious about sharing the past too quickly, knowing how overwhelming it could be for the girls. Yet, here it was, surfacing through innocent questions. Scene, afternoon. The family was in the living area. A box of old photographs and letters had been left within the triplets' reach. Their curiosity quickly took over. Eileen held up a photograph of a younger Evan with a woman. Mine. Her eyes widened. Is this Mommy? Evan's heart skipped a beat. He took the photo gently from her. Yes, that's your mother many years ago. Alexa, the smallest, whispered. You knew her before we were born? Yes, Evan admitted softly. A very long time ago. The girls exchanged glances, sensing the weight behind his tone. Questions swirled, some unspoken but heavy. Who is he really? Why wasn't he around before? Scene, Evan sits down with the girls. Before all of this, he began carefully, your mother and I, we were young. I made mistakes, choices that hurt people, including her, and I wasn't ready to have a family. But now I'm here, and I won't leave. Eileen looked him directly in the eyes. Were you scared of us? Evan shook his head, a lump forming in his throat. No, I was scared of myself, of not being the person I needed to be. But you've already taught me how to try. Arya reached out, holding his hand tightly. We won't leave you, Dad. We'll help you be brave. Alexa curled up beside him. We love you. The words pierced through Evan's doubts, stitching together a fragile thread of trust between them. Scene, evening. Evan and Mine sat quietly on the porch while the triplets slept inside. The past lingered between them, unspoken yet palpable. They're growing curious. Mine said softly. Soon they'll want to know everything. The truth, the mistakes, the life before you came back. Evan nodded slowly. I know, and I'm ready. They need honesty now more than anything. Mine reached for his hand. They already trust you. That's the hardest part. The rest we face together. Evan gazed at the stars emerging in the night sky, a mirror of hope and uncertainty. The past always has a way of catching up, but he realized that facing it openly, with courage, love, and transparency, was the only path forward. Closing scene. The camera pans over the sleeping triplets, their faces serene. Evan and Mine stand quietly behind them, guardians of both past and present, ready to guide this newfound family toward a future filled with trust and love.